W.
I injected ribeyes. Yeah, I like
I'm on a mission to make the greatest steak in the world. And sometimes that means
cool
we need
shit,
to
you know?
experiment. It's time to cook. What I have in front of me is a giant prime rib roast, and it's about to go on a 7-day marination journey. But the thing about marinades is they don't penetrate too deeply. She's gonna be putting in work today. It is time to maximize flavor. Let's get started. First things first, let's talk about the meat. And this right here is a whole rib roast, often considered the greatest cut on the entire cow. If we were to take slices just like this, we'd be left with our ribeye steaks. Or if we left a bigger chunk, we'd be left with a whole prime rib. With such a gorgeous piece of meat, you might be wondering why in God's name would we ever consider injecting it? So this right here is a thick cut steak. We have a beautiful rosy pink interior that is literally edge to edge. But one potential issue is that all of that seasoning and crust is only on that outside, while the inside is completely unseasoned and a lot less flavorful. This is particularly an issue for super thick steaks, and even more of an issue when we start talking about a whole prime rib. So possibly by injecting our thick steaks with a lot of flavor, we can avoid those issues. So the first thing we need to do is slice this into 3 even roasts. And it is time to talk about our injecting ingredient challenge.
I don't really know cuts like that.
First up, we have chili crisp. This is God's gift to the world in the form of a condiment. It's essentially chili oil combined with like fried garlic, herbs, tons of umami. It is fantastic. Now, it's probably not doctor recommended to eat this directly from the jar. I got no words. Okay, and challenger number 2 is by far the most controversial liquid that we can possibly talk about.
That was the chunk you just
steak. You either grew up with it or you didn't. I'm talking about A1 steak sauce. Would I recommend putting this on a really expensive steak? Absolutely not. This is only meant to elevate a really low quality cheap steak. But how will it taste injected into a steak and marinated for 7 days? Only time will tell. Go for a little taste.
Gross, nasty.
That feels wrong in the most right way possible. And last but not least, first up, we got some straight Kentucky bourbon whiskey. In my opinion, steak and whiskey go together like
peanut butter and jelly.
And we also have something that I have actually never used before, and that is sodium phosphate, AKA moisture magic. What exactly are we talking about here with this moisture magic? Let's have Google help us out. Phosphate helps the meat hold more water during the cooking process, gives your product a slightly better color, and increases juiciness. So usually in like competition barbecue, what people will do is mix the sodium phosphates with water, inject it into a brisket, let it sit for a couple hours, maybe overnight, and it'll lead to a way juicier final product. We're gonna do something similar, but not exactly the same. Instead of using water, we're gonna use whiskey, which hopefully will add to the flavor. And instead of only letting it sit overnight, we're gonna do it for 7 full days and see what happens. And we'll start off here with the chili crisp. Now, obviously this is a very chunky sauce, so getting this into an injector wouldn't really work in this format, so we're gonna strain it. We're just gonna dump all of that delicious chili oil, as well as those chunks, right in there. Probably need about 3 or 4 jars. And with all of our oil extracted, it is time to inject. Let's get this baby loaded up. All right, let's see how we're looking here. That should work. And there really is no right or wrong way to do it. We're gonna just get in there with this syringe and start blowing her up like a balloon.
What?
Yes, of course, gotta get in that cap. I'll literally be getting it from every single angle, just blowing this baby up. It's just like super firm, almost like a balloon at this point. Now we'll just finish by applying all of those crunchy bits from the chili crisp right over the tops as well as the sides.
This feels wrong to watch, yeah, bro.
At this point, there is oil all over myself and the kitchen, but let's get this in a marinating bag and we'll throw this in the fridge to start marinating and move on to the next roast. And it is time for the one and only A1 steak sauce. Gotta be honest, I'm starting to feel like a plastic surgeon or something. That's because you are a plastic surgeon. I am? Yeah. All right, don't freak out, Max. You got this.
My name's not Max.
I know. I'm Max. All right, this shouldn't hurt one bit. That was weird. All right, let's get this baby injected. Just want to completely fill it up, filled to the brim. It's literally just a pocket of A1. Oh, Wow, so this thing is literally so filled up right now, it's like actually firm to the touch. However, I am a little bit concerned that by the end of it, it might form like weird bubbles and like pockets of sauce. But there's only one way to know for sure. And we'll get this one in a vacuum seal bag. And just a bit more A1 here for good measure. And last but not least, it is time for our whiskey and sodium phosphate combination injection. We'll do a cup of whiskey. The goal here is for flavor. Then we'll do about 1/8 of a cup of our Moisture Magic. The goal here is tenderness. And give it a good whisk. And I have decided to retire this terrible injector. We're upgrading to titanium or whatever this is, but it looks a lot better.
Ever try beer and chicken?
That is the good stuff.
Yeah.
Get it right
Barbecue
into the
chicken.
cap. Oh man.
Got a leaker.
And we'll get this guy in the bag. And just like that, all of our roasts are completely bagged up. It is time to let them marinate for a full 7 days. So I will see you guys in about a week. Steak and mashed potatoes. Meatballs. Steak and mashed potatoes. And just like that, it has been 7 days. Let's see what we got. And we'll start here with the chili crisp.
Now, you live a life where fresh milk is always on hand. DoorDash.
The hell up.
Something about that smell that is just so intense in the best way possible. And as you can see, there is still so much texture on the outside of that meat. And interesting, it looks like the fat has really changed in color. Because of all that chili oil, it almost looks orange at this point. So at first I was thinking maybe we just cook this thing whole like a prime rib. Then I realized I am way too interested in seeing what's going on the inside of this. So what we're gonna do is slice this in half so we have two really thick steaks. We got our big boy knife and we'll slice her right down the middle. Man, this thing is just looking absolutely ridiculous. It's almost like it's crying tears of chili oil. And I was sort of worried there'd be like bubbles and pockets of liquid, but it seems like it all distributed pretty nicely. Also, looking at the edges, you can see how that exterior marinade didn't really penetrate too deeply. But of course, with that injection, we were able to get flavor deep inside that meat. I have a feeling this one's gonna be very hard to beat. And next up, we got that A1 sauce. Saucy flopsy. I am very excited. Excited about this one. Got some in my eye and my mouth. Feeling very tender, looking very pale. So if we're being honest here, this steak is not looking too great. It kind of looks like it's well done and sort of steamed. And once again, we'll go right down the middle. And let's see what we got.
Ew.
God. What in God's green earth is going on? It almost looks like there's bullet holes and its blood is the A1. So we of course still have some red meat. Then it moves into almost like an oxidized type situation.
Okay,
finally,
maybe
when you
not.
get right
No,
to the
it's not.
source,
Not- the
there's
part
like
before was
actual
good.
pockets of
He did one with
thickened
chili oil. It
A1.
looked
It's almost
beautiful.
like
It was
we've
like
added
red.
marbling to the steak in the form
Yucky
of
as
A1
right.
steak sauce.
He had like a big syringe and was just
All right, let's see
injecting
what
them.
we're working with. This is the whiskey combined with the sodium phosphate. Does smell very good, just like whiskey. Definitely getting a bit of like a waterlogged type feel to it. It doesn't feel super tender, but the only way to know for sure is to slice into her. All right, now this one is very different than the last ones. Like it feels full, but at the same time, it's like there's very little moisture on it. It's kind of hard to explain. Like usually the meat and the fat are kind of sort of the same texture. Oh, the fat is quite firm and really separating from the meat.
Very
we have our
versatile.
whiskey and phosphate
The versatility
injected,
is up there with
A1
chicken.
steak sauce, that chili crisp, and lastly, a
Gotta wait till you
control.
put that bitch on
And
the
just
grill.
like that, what we are left with are 4 absolutely thick cut steaks. These things are monsters. Let's move on to the seasoning step. There is a good amount of salt in like the A1 and the chili crisp. Let's just hit them with a salt and pepper based rub. For the whiskey phosphate, we'll go pretty heavy with the seasoning, getting both sides as well as those edges. Now the A1, getting it everywhere. Next, that chili crisp. I feel like the sides are already quite seasoned, so just going very light on there. And finally, that control. Going pretty heavy. These are some thick steaks. And just like that, let's get these babies on the grill. And you better believe we're smoking over applewood. Low and slow. And with our steaks smoking away beautifully, I do have a quick announcement from my jerky company. Fahrenheit, internal 5 seconds. up. This right here.
What is this?
You just know I gotta slice into some of that cap. This right here is the best of the best. I mean, just look how juicy and tender.
Taste test.
And next up, we got that chili for a best.
What? Wait, you just
And
confused
the
with
whiskey.
that.
And we'll start by slicing into the control.
Control, so that's the regular one. Right?
You just know I gotta slice into some of that cap. This right here is the best of the best. I mean, just look how juicy and tender that looks. And I am just dying for a bite here.
Yeah,
No, you gotta wait for the taste test.
And next up, we got that chili crisp. The crust and color on this thing is just off the chain. It's time to slice into our 7-day marinated chili crisp.
Bro saw a piece and
It's just
said
so
no.
cool to see that chili oil deep inside the meat. Like, we have that beautiful crust on the outside providing flavor, but it looks like the inside is also packed as well. But I just know that if this was a traditionally cooked steak and it was this thick, the inside would just be so incredibly bland. I am extremely excited to give this one a shot.
Not today, mister.
And next up, we got that A1. And it is time to slice. Whoa. I mean, this is just absolute madness. It's
So,
almost
don't
like
look
we
bad at all.
added our own
It didn't look
dark
bad
colored
raw.
marbling to the meat. And what's really weird to me is
Like,
that
compared to how
A1
this
is a
one
pretty
looks?
liquidy sauce, but it almost seems like the liquid elements like evaporated or been absorbed, and it's left behind this kind of paste-like substance. And while by no means does this look good, I'm hoping it'll be delicious.
I can't start my day without my Old Spice swagger. It
So
gives me
sneaky
confidence
ass
to catch
up, man.
everything life throws my way.
And last but not least, we have our
A1 is
whiskey
ass.
and sodium
That shit not
phosphate
good.
marinated. Well, I mean, first and foremost, we got to talk about the size of this cap. This right here is what I'm talking about.
A1 is great. Barbecue sauce is better on a steak than A1. Let's talk about it. Let's talk
What's
about
going
it.
on here? This is very weird. Gotta be honest here, guys. I have no idea what to think of this. It doesn't feel like absurdly tender.
Tastes better than steak
it does
sauce.
have that weird red
better than
bruise.
steak sauce.
However, I can definitely smell the
You okay?
whiskey,
I'm
which
fine.
I'm very happy about.
You telling
Of
me
course,
would it
gotta
taste
taste
good?
it.
I just don't like steak sauce. I think it's overrated. Like
It is time for the taste test.
I'm trying to think of a situation where I would
And we
eat
have
barbecue
finally
sauce.
made
or
it
not
to
barbecue,
the
steak
most
sauce.
important part of the video. It's time to find out how these guys taste, which one is best, and to see if there's any difference in texture and tenderness. Shout out to the viewer who recommended we make a Max Jerky branded
Or
taste
Chester
tester
Chase.
tie. Kyle,
When
please hand me a
applied
piece
right,
of meat
yes.
at random.
When applied right, I enjoy it.
That is phenomenal. Definitely the chili crisp. I was really worried it'd be overpowering, but it's like subtle, little spice to it. Texture feels completely normal. I have a feeling that one may just be the winner. Number 2. Oh, very springy texture. It's almost sour. Oh, I can't do it. Kyle, oh. I don't know if it was the whiskey or the phosphates, but that was really not good. It definitely did not improve the texture. It was sort of like that fake
no
chicken
sauce.
texture.
The steak
Number
that's,
3.
you know what I mean? Retained enough
Definitely the
moisture to where you
original,
don't
but
need
I'm
it.
getting flavors that were sort of masked in the past too. Like the
You have to
black
chew it, but you don't
pepper,
have to chew
the
it
beefiness.
too
Number 4,
fucking much.
A1. That brings back some good memories.
For sure. Fix a
Very, very
mid-ass
good.
steak.
What did it taste like? Essentially just a steak.
Yeah, that's what you were saying. So
absolutely
A1 is
smothered in
meant to save
A1,
steak.
Which in my opinion is not a bad thing, but the long marination time didn't really add anything that a normal steak covered in A1 wouldn't have. So I'd put that one in 3rd place. I would put the whiskey one by far in last place. But the real question is, which one came in
Toxic,
first?
what you got
Is it
going
the
on,
original or the chili crisp? For
Yeah,
an
chili's
average
crazy.
day-to-day steak,
That
go
greedy
with
is
the
insane.
original. But if you want something unique and memorable, the chili crisp is a great option.
Medium
Hope that
rare.
makes sense, and I also really hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to subscribe to the channel,
I usually
like,
order
maybe
what?
drop a comment, let me know what you thought of it. Also,
wanna say
be sure
medium
to
well.
check out Max Jerky. And with
I
that,
don't know.
I will see you guys next time. Bit of skin
No. No way.
Dude, what do you think about the A1 on the ceiling? Not a fan. All right, well.